Hawk and Dove are fictional characters and a superhero team that appear in comic books published by DC Comics. Created by Steve Ditko and Steve Skeates and debuting in Showcase number 75 during the Silver Age of comic books, the duo has existed in multiple incarnations over the years across several eponymous ongoing series and mini-series, and has also appeared in a number of recurring roles and guest appearances in titles such as Teen Titans, Birds of Prey, and Brightest Day. The most prominent incarnations have been the original pairing of teenage brothers, the temperamental and militant Hank Hall with the well-read and pacifistic Don Hall, as well as the current teaming of Hank Hall with Dawn Granger, an unrelated young woman who assumes the role of Dove in Hawk and Dove #1 following Dawn's death in 1985's Crisis on Infinite Earths maxi-series. The central concept, which was originally inspired by the emerging political divides of the 1960s, traditionally revolves around two young heroes with contrasting personalities and diametrically opposed ideologies who, by speaking their superheroic aliases, are transformed and granted power sets of heightened strength, speed, and agility. With Dove representing reason and non-violence and Hawk representing force and aggression, they complement one another and find a state of balance in order to effectively combat evil. With Dawn's introduction, it was revealed that Hawk and Dove receive their powers from the Lords of Chaos and Order, respectively, and that their powers are mystic in origin. Though the duo's ongoing titles have all been relatively short-lived and their guest appearances in other titles sporadic, the heroes have experienced a storied and often tragic history. Multiple characters have worn the respective titles of Hawk and Dove at one time or another, and the legacy has endured deaths, resurrections, and even Hank's own descent into madness and subsequent transformation into the mass-murdering despot monarch and later extant. A third incarnation of Hawk and Dove debuted in their own 1997 mini-series, though this group featured entirely unique characters and was only linked to their predecessors thematically, if not in namesake alone. Dawn's estranged sister, the British and fiery Holly Granger, serves as Hawk 3 in Hank's absence until her own death in 2009's Blackest Night event. Publication history Silver and Bronze Age spinning off from their Showcase debut, Don and Hank Hall received their own series titled The Hawk and the Dove. Created by Steve Ditko and Steve Skeates, Ditko plotted only the first issue and left after the second. In a 1999 interview, Skeates expressed dismay with changes that would be made to his script by Ditko and editorial, citing a tendency to neutralize Dove's abilities as a crime fighter in favor of Hawk's. It was strange. A lot of changes would happen after I turned in a script. Quite often, my idea of what to do with the Dove was have him do brave stuff and then it would be changed by either Dick, Giordano or Steve into the Hawk doing that stuff. The unregistered trademark D say it was out of character for the Dove. They seem to be equating Dove with wimp, wuss, coward or whatever. And I don't unregistered trademark T really think it was because they were more hawkish. I just don't unregistered trademark T think that they knew what a Dove was. Although Skeates attempted to change the direction of the series after Ditko left and artist Gil Kane joined the creative team, Skeates himself left after the fourth issue, leaving Kane to take on both writing and art responsibilities until the book's cancellation due to low sales after only the sixth issue. The original Hawk and Dove made sporadic appearances in different DC titles throughout the 1970s and 1980s, primarily within the Teen Titans and New Teen Titans, joining the original incarnation briefly from Teen Titans number 25/30, under the guidance of writers Dick Giordano, Robert Canna, and artist Nick Cardy. Skeates also provided scripts for some of these issues they appeared in. The brothers also teamed up with Batman in The Brave and the Bold number 181 in an out-of-continuity tale written by Alan Brennett and drawn by Jim Aparo. The original Hawk and Dove's last appearance together was in Crisis on Infinite Earths number 12, in which Don Hall was killed and became one of the last of a multitude of characters to meet their demise throughout the series, including Flash, Supergirl, and dozens of others. Modern age following Dove's death, Hawk and Dove would appear together in various flashbacks while Hawk would appear alone in occasional guest appearances in the Teen Titans titles, including his own solo two-part story in Teen Titans Spotlight number 7 8 by Mike Baron and Jackson Guice. In 1986, Karl Kesel and Barbara Kesel began collaborating on a revival of Hawk and Dove, with the idea of creating a second Dove, who would this time be a female that would later become Dawn Granger. I was inking the figure of the dead dove on George Parr copyright Reza unregistered trademark crisis spread in the history of the DC Universe, not crying tears over the death of the guy since he was pretty much a minor hero, but regretting the end of a really interesting team. I always liked Hawk and Dove. I always thought how their unregistered trademark DC OE Hawk, a and a OE Dove, a and Transform was really cool. Then it hit me. The mysterious voice that gave Hawk and Dove their powers could easily give the Dove powers to someone else. Maybe a woman. I called Barbara as soon as I could. She sparked off the idea instantly, and before even we knew it, we were co-writers. The revival was approved for a 5-issue miniseries, and the Kesels were joined by then up-and-coming artist Rob Liefeld. The miniseries, shortened from its 1968 title to simply Hawk and Dove, was published in 1988 to 1989. The revival veered away from the duo's Silver Age political leanings and told a more straightforward superhero story with human trappings, introducing a number of supporting characters and villains that were loosely based on many of the Kesels' friends and family. Their portrayals of Hank and Dawn themselves were modeled on Barbara Kesel's brother and Karl Kesel's sister, respectively. This new direction was well received by fans and sold out, which then spurred the launch of an ongoing series with Hawk and Dove in June 1989, co-written by the Kesels with Greg Guller replacing Liefeld on art chores. The Kesels also wrote a Hawk and Dove feature in Secret Origins number 43 that elaborated on the origin story of Hank and Dawn, revealing that Hawk and Dove's powers were given to them by the Lords of Chaos and Order, and that Hawk and Dove themselves were agents of Chaos and Order, respectively. Despite its strong start, the relaunched ongoing was eventually cancelled after 28 issues and 2 annuals, with number 28 being published in October 1991. To date, this is the longest any Hawk and Dove ongoing series has lasted. Fictional character biography Hank Hall and Don Hall Hank Hall and Don Hall were the sons of Judge Owen Hall. They eventually found out that their father had many enemies when their father was nearly assassinated. Hank and Don eventually follow the criminal back to the hideout, where they accidentally locked themselves in the closet of some criminals plotting to dispose of him. Just as Hank and Don, who found for the first time they could agree that they wanted to save their father, mysterious voices echoed throughout the room offering the boys a chance to save their father. All they had to do was call upon the powers of the Hawk and the Dove. The voices belonged to a Lord of Chaos named Char and a Lord of Order named Taratora. The Hall brothers invoked their new powers and became Hawk and Dove. The conservative Hawk was hot-headed and reactionary, whereas the liberal Dove was more thoughtful and reasoned, but was prone to indecisiveness. Judge Owen Hall displayed a more balanced political beliefs, and firmly disapproved of vigilantism, not knowing his sons were costumed adventurers and the fact that Hawk and Dove had saved him from his would-be assailants. After their series ended, Hawk and Dove became semi-regulars in the Teen Titans, eventually joining Titans West. Writer Alan Brennett attempted to end their saga in a 1982 issue of The Brave and the Bold, where 12 years later Hank and Don Hall, then adults, are trying to cope with their 1960s values in the 1980s. After Hawk and Dove teamed up with Batman, the mysterious voice revoked Hank and Don's powers, deeming them still immature. This was later intentionally disregarded with a joke in New Teen Titans number 50, when it was realized the real-time aging of Hank and Don would affect the age of the Teen Titans as well. Dove died in 1985's Crisis on Infinite Earths while saving a young boy who was being attacked by the Anti-Monitor's shadow demons. The creature that killed Dove came from behind while he was saving a kid from a falling building, and Hawk was too far away to intervene. A statue of Don is part of the memorial at Titans Tower in San Francisco. Hawk continued on his own, but without Dove to restrain him, he became violent to the point where many superheroes considered him nearly as much trouble as the supervillains. Modern age. In 1988, a new Hawk and Dove mini-series written by Carl and Barbara Gazal reintroduced the duo. This series placed a woman named Dawn Granger as the Dove, replacing Dawn, who had died in the original series. The new Dove mysteriously received her powers while attempting to save her mother from terrorists. At the end of the mini-series, it was revealed that Dawn received her powers the moment Dawn had been stripped of them. This Dove, while considerably more aggressive and self-confident than Dawn, also has greater than average strength and dexterity, faster than human speed, and expanded mental capabilities. Dove fights mostly defensively, preferring to outthink and remain in control of her opponent. She also heals quickly and cannot revert to Dawn if her wounds or some other condition would be fatal to Dawn. They managed to hold their own against the Lords of Chaos creation called Kestrel. Set in Washington, D.C., the series introduced several supporting characters, including Hank's girlfriend, Ren Tarkamari, and friends Kyle Spencer and Donna Cabot. They also worked with police captain Brian Salasala, who would develop a mutual admiration with Dawn. It also introduced Kestrel, an evil spell created by Msala and Barter, owner of Barter Trading, exotic goods and services. Hawk and Dove are lured to the mystical land of Druspatower the home of the Lords of Chaos and Order by Kestrel. It is all an effort of Msala to seek out that world's Lords of Order. They are eventually discovered the Turator, Lord of Order, and Char, Lord of Chaos in the form of a combined being called Unity. After Msala and Kestrel are defeated, Char and Turator reveal they created Hawk and Dove to prove to the other Lords of Chaos and Order that the two forces could work together and then convince Hawk and Dove to absorb the essence of their respective creators. This merging enhances their powers. Dove could now fly and was stronger and bulletproof. And Hawk now had super strength and was nearly invulnerable. Hawk's Fall and Redemption, Armageddon 2001, 0 Hour, and JSA in 1991, in an editorial snafu concerning the mini-series Armageddon 2001, word leaked out that the central time-traveling villain of the piece was actually Captain Atom. Monarch had originally been conceived as a future identity of Captain Atom. Waverider had even checked Hawk's future in Hawk and Dove Annual No. 2, which had them fighting Monarch, eliminating them as possible candidates. In a last-ditch effort to provide a surprise twist, DC changed the storyline. Sales of Hawk and Dove had dipped and the series was slotted for cancellation, so Monarch's identity was revealed as the future Hank Hall. Monarch attacked Hawk and Dove and managed to murder Dawn in front of Hank, causing him to suffer the psychotic break, kill Monarch, and assume his villainous identity. He briefly became a recurring foe for Captain Atom before absorbing Waverider's time travel powers, subsequently changing his form and name to Extant in 0 Hour. As Extant, Hawk murdered several members of the Justice Society of America. During a rematch however, Atom Smasher used the new god Metron's Mobius chair to transfer Hall onto a doomed plane in place of the Atom Smasher's mother. The plane exploded due to the terrorist actions of Cobra. Despite his crimes and the lives taken by him, a statue of him is present in the Titans Tower Memorial in San Francisco. Sasha Martins and Wiley Wolverman . Another Hawk and Dove appeared in a 5-issue mini-series in 1997, written by Mike Baron. In this version, completely unrelated to the concept of the Lords of Chaos and Order, the duo's conflicting personalities manifested as military brat and slacker dude, respectively. They gained large bird wings and a telepathic link by receiving experimental medical treatments as children. Following the mini-series, the new Hawk and Dove made a handful of cameo appearances in Titans-related books, once protecting the town of Woodstock, New York, during a worldwide crisis. Holly and Dawn Granger . In 2003, JSA No. 45 €50 told of a mysterious woman in a coma who was taken into the care of the Justice Society. Initially thought to be the comatose body of Hector Hall's missing wife, Hippolyta Trevor, the woman was revealed to be none other than the presumed dead Dawn Granger. Dawn's death was revealed to be a hoax orchestrated by the villain Mordru, who was also revealed to have caused Hank's insanity that set him down to path to becoming Monarch. Dawn later gained a new partner when her estranged and aggressive British sister, Holly Granger, was granted the mystical powers of chaos, becoming the third Hawk. Holly's first appearance was in Teen Titans Volume 3, number 22/23, joining her sister and many other former Titans against Dr. Light. The duo later re-teamed with the Titans to rescue Raven's soul cell from their old nemesis, Kestrel. In the Day of Vengeance limited series, the Spectre attacks and apparently destroys T'Challa and T'Challa, leaving Hawk and Dove supposedly powerless. Despite this, however, Hawk and Dove were shown during a worldwide prison break, being contacted telepathically by Jean Jonzz. Both were in costume, and Dove was carrying Hawk while flying, possibly implying that T'Challa and T'Challa were somehow restored to life after Earth entered the 10th Age of Magic. Hawk and Dove also appeared in Countdown to Mystery, in which Dawn Granger is one of a number of heroes possessed by Eclipso. In Teen Titans Volume 3, number 34, Holly and Dawn are shown in Titan's Tower sometime during the previous year, with dialogue from Hawk implying that they were at the time members of the Teen Titans. Their association with the team was temporary, though they resurfaced in the Titans East special as part of a new team organized by Cyborg. The sisters were both shot by energy beams from Trigon and were left for dead. Later events showed they were badly injured but had survived the experience. Blackest Night In Blackest Night number 2, multiple Black Power rings attempt to reanimate the body of Don Hall, only to be prevented from disturbing his grave by an invisible barrier. As they collide with the barrier, the ring's typical command is interrupted. The rings instead respond, Don Hall of Earth at peace. This is the first depiction of the Black Power rings failing to recruit a member for the Black Lantern Corps. Though Don rejects the Black Rings, his brother Hank's corpse accepts his with humor, same old, huh, bro? Hawk's got to do all the dirty work himself. In Blackest Night, Titans number 1, Hank lures Holly and Dawn to a library with a trail of dead Hawks and Doves. A ruse by Black Lantern Hank Hall, he kills Holly Granger by ripping out her heart. A Black Ring then claims Holly's body and the two Black Lantern Hawks assault and torment Dawn. Eventually Dove goes to Titan's Tower for help, only to find it under attack by more Black Lantern Titans. Holly and Hank catch up to her and resume their attack. When Holly attempts to rip out Dawn's heart, a blast of white energy radiates from her body, severing the connection between Holly and the ring. Dawn then turns the light on the other Black Lanterns, destroying all but Terra, Tempest and Hank. The effort causes Dawn to pass out. While unconscious, she has a vision of Dawn, who tells her that she can save Hank, and should not give up on him. Dawn and the Titans join the Justice League in battling the Black Lanterns at Coast City. She is able to destroy Black Lanterns with her very presence. The Flash witnesses Dawn's fight with the Undead Army and realizes that she possesses the white light of creation as mentioned by Indigo 1, a power believed to be created by the combined 7 powers of the emotional spectrum. During the battle, Dove's white energies are pulled into the Black Lantern's central power battery. Under the control of the being trapped inside, the being is eventually revealed to be the villainous Anti-Monitor. Dove aids the 7 Corps members to defeat the cosmic entity before resuming their battle with the Black Lantern Corps. In the aftermath of the final battle, Hank is brought back to life by the power of the white light. A memorial statue is created for Holly at Titan's Tower. Brightest Day Hank and Dawn encounter Deadman shortly after the events of Blackest Night. They have him, in their own particular ways, try to resurrect Dawn and Holly, but to no avail. The voice guiding Deadman simply indicates death no longer holds the same meaning. The three are transported to Silver City, New Mexico, where they find the White Lantern power battery in a crater. When Deadman asks the White Battery why they were all brought back to life, the entity tells them that it is dying and requires a successor. The entity also tells Hawk to save Dawn from Captain Boomerang. When asking why Dove needs to be protected, the entity said they all need protection. Dove and Deadman travel together for a time, first to Atlantis and then Gotham City, in a search for a candidate to replace the entity. They believe Resurrection Man and Batman to be possible candidates. and Deadman tries to give the ring to Batman, but the ring rejects him and returns to Deadman, who is suddenly shot to death. But the ring brings him back to life, and upon doing so both he and Dawn realize they are in love. Deadman has since moved into Dove's apartment. Later, as the Dark Avatar made his presence known, Hook and Dove are transported to the Star City forest by the entity, where it tells them that they must protect the forest and withstand the ultimate savior, Alec Holland. Within the forest, Captain Boomerang finds Dawn and throws a boomerang at her. Hawk fails to catch it, but Deadman succeeds, dying in the process. Hook is left to knock Captain Boomerang unconscious. After the Dark Avatar is defeated, the entity reveals to them that the boomerang was a part of a plan to free Hook from his role as an avatar of war from the Lords of Chaos. His act of saving Dawn would have broken their power over Hawk and allow him to be true to himself. Dawn is heartbroken. She and Boston Brand share an emotional farewell as Brand resumes his duties as Deadman. Around this same time period, Dawn and Hank are recruited into the Birds of Prey by Zinda Blake while in Gotham to stop some teenaged supervillains. Immediately after their meeting with Zinda, the two are called in by Oracle to rescue Black Canary and the Huntress from a villainess calling herself White Canary. Dove also appears as part of Wonder Woman's all-female super team in Wonder Woman number 600. The New 52 DC relaunched this title as part of their company-wide reboot of their 52 major titles. It was released on September 7, 2011, written by Sterling Gates and art by Rob Liefeld. In this new series, Hook and Dove are Hank Hall and Dawn Granger, who resume their superhero activities in Washington, D.C., with assistance from Deadman. They encounter Condor and Swan, a new pair of supervillains who possess superpowers similar to theirs. Hook and Dove fight Condor and Swan after they try to kill President Barack Obama and Hank's father. Swan escapes, but Hook and Dove manage to defeat Condor, who is revealed to be an old unnamed man. During the first issue, the origins of Hook and Dove are recounted. Dawn and Hank were Dove and Hook for at least 2 years, until 3 years before the start of the series, when Dawn perished during the worst crisis the world has ever seen, and Dawn became the next Avatar almost immediately. It is also said that Dawn had a connection to Dawn, known only to herself and Deadman, but unknown to Hank. The Hawk and Dove series was cancelled after issue 8. In the new continuity, Dawn Granger has a tenuous romantic relationship with Deadman, and has appeared in the teen comic Justice League Dark. However, their attempt fails miserably as while Deadman insists to carry on their relationship using borrowed bodies, Dove shows disdain and repulsion to the idea. Powers and abilities. Dove possesses an ability known as Danger Sense Transformation. When in the presence of danger, whether to herself or others, Dawn Granger can call out the word Dove, and transform into Dove. She does not need to be aware of danger, meaning she transforms if she says the word while unknowingly being in danger. However, the transformation requires actual danger, so if Dawn says Dove without danger being present, she would not transform. The transformation wears off a short time after any danger has passed, unless Dove is seriously injured. She will remain as Dove until the injuries are sufficiently healed. Hank once searched the warehouse district to find a criminal hideout, having to say Hawk before entering each warehouse. On high magic worlds, Dawn can remain as Dove for extended periods regardless of whether danger is present. The transformation changes Granger into a minor force of order and she gains avian characteristics, which are hidden under her costume. If the costume receives sufficient damage, it can reveal part of her true form, which shines with the golden glowing light of order. Within realms of higher magic, Dove can easily remove the costume and show her true form. Dove is also hypervigilant. Her natural aptitudes are enhanced, such as her ability to judge people, which allows her to read people and objects, and know how they will behave. In addition to flight, she also has enhanced agility, can withstand physical punishment, heal quickly, and her perceptions are heightened to their fullest extent. Due to her connection with Turatia, on high magic worlds her powers are enhanced. She can concentrate her radiance into a blinding beam of light. She also possesses the white light of creation. It is unknown whether this power is an extension of her radiance ability, but during the Blackest Night crisis, Dove was able to channel this particular force and destroy Black Lanterns along with blocking a Black Lantern's aura reading power. How and why Dawn was chosen for this power, or whether it has anything to do with her link to Turatia, remains unknown. As seen in the pages of Blackest Night, Dawn Hall is impervious to black power rings. In an interview with IGN, Jeff Johns provides an explanation behind Dove's immunity to the black power rings. "You'll learn more about this as we go forward. But really it speaks to the nature of Dawn Hall. He can't be desecrated by the likes of these things. He's untouchable in death and at total peace more than any other being in the universe." Reflecting on the limitations of the rings, Johns goes on to state that, even though magic is a joke to the black power rings, Dawn is quite the opposite. Hawk possesses a danger sense transformation, which allows him to change into a superhuman with the powers of super strength, unlimited stamina, enhanced speed, enhanced agility, and enhanced durability. His partner Dove suppresses his violent nature, and without her presence Hawk's rage becomes boundless. While he was a member of the Black Lantern Corps, Hawk wielded a black power ring which allowed him to generate black energy constructs. He was also able to perceive emotional auras. Enemies: outside of the enemies they fought with the Teen Titans, each of the Hawk and Dove incarnations had their own enemies. Condor, the evil counterpart of Hawk. Condor's identity is an unnamed elderly man. Ditko, a priest that is secretly the ancient dragon of Dak. Hunter, a supervillain that worked for the Dak, and had hunted Hawk and Dove. Kestrel, a supervillain created by unregistered trademark Shulla and Gorham of the Lords of Chaos to either subvert Hawk to the forces of evil or kill him. Necromancer, a powerful sorceress who tried unlocking unlimited magical power with the Circle of Totems. Shellshock, a mysterious woman who can blow up anything by saying its name. Sudden Death, a beach bum-themed metahuman. Swan, the evil counterpart of Dove. Swan's identity is Rachel Phelps. Unity, Dr. Arsala is the daughter of Hank and Dawn from an alternate future who used the Gem of Order to become Unity. Collected editions, Hawk and Dove, November 1993, ISBN 978-56389-120-5, Hawk and Dove, Ghosts and Demons, March 2012, ISBN 978-14012333976, DC Comics presents, Brightest Day No. 3, February 2011. Features Hawk and Dove, alongside the Teen Titans, fighting Kestrel. Hawk and Dove, First Strikes, August 2012, ISBN 978-1781163,993. Other versions. The Dark Knight Strikes Again Hank Hall and Dawn Hall appear in The Dark Knight Strikes Again. Hank and Dawn Hall try to take up the tights again in their old age, but do not go through with it as before. They used to argue all the time. In other media. Television. Animated versions of Hawk and Dove were featured alongside Wonder Woman in an episode of Justice League Unlimited titled Hawk and Dove, voiced by Jason Hovey and Fred Savage. This version of the duo depicts a stronger relationship between the brothers. Dawn is more self-confident, and their philosophical bickering is more like a brotherly teasing. Ironically, there is a role reversal. Fred Savage voices the violent Hawk while Hovey voices the pacifist Dove. They were originally to have voiced their more obvious roles, but tried switching during rehearsals, to the approval of the director. In this episode, their fighting styles were thoroughly contrasted. Hawk employs brute force, aggressive tactics, at times resembling a football player. Dove, on the other hand, uses a blend of techniques reminiscent of Aikido or perhaps Judo, using his attackers' movements to fling them aside. Wonder Woman enlisted them to help stop Ares from causing war in Khazia. They are successful due to Dove's peaceful resistance against the rage-powered Annihilator. This episode is another example of how close the two are, as Hawk struggles against Wonder Woman in an attempt to protect his brother. They are last seen in the series finale, Destroyer, where they fight off parademons alongside several other League members. They later appear in the final scene running down the steps of the Metro Tower with the rest of the League. Fittingly enough, both in that fight scene and as they exit in the finale of the episode, they appear along with fellow Steve Ditko creations The Question, The Creeper, and Captain Atom. Hawk and Dove appear in the teaser for the Batman, The Brave and the Bold episode, when OMAC attacks. With Hawk voiced by Greg Ellis and Dove voiced by D. Bradley Baker. They help Batman stop an intergalactic war between the Controllers and the Warlords of Okara. While Hawk and Dove take out the ground forces, Dove claims that it is better to settle things diplomatically while Hawk says that they have to hurt them or they will never stop. Regardless, Batman gets the two sides' leaders to sign the peace treaty and end the war. Hawk and Dove do manage to embarrass themselves, their bickering causing them to fight in front of the leaders. Batman invites the leaders to have a drink in his ship to draw their attention from the bickering brothers. Hawk and Dove also briefly appear in the two-part episode The Siege of Starro PT-1 amongst the heroes who were taken over by Starro. After Starro's defeat, Hawk and Dove are transformed back to normal. Hawk and the female Dove will appear on TNT's series Titans as members of the team and set to be a romantic pairing. Web series Hawk and Dove appears in DC's Superhero Girls, as background students of Superhero High. References. External links, Hawk and Dove at Don Markstein's Toonipedia. Archived from the original on December 8, 2015. Hawk and Dove at Comic Vine, Hank Hall at Comic Vine, Don Hall at Comic Vine, Holly Granger at Comic Vine, Dawn Granger at Comic Vine. The Hawk and the Dove Chronicles, Blake Bell's article on Hawk and Dove, Don and Hank Hall at the DC Animated Universe Wiki.